Gotcha.
So, D.B., you're here returning to Denver because you say you've been here before with Legally Blonde this time. And I've had the chance to see you do this role once or twice before.
Right.
What's it like to come back to Denver?
I love this town. I was just saying to somebody, I could live here. I love this. I love it. It's so beautiful.
We'd love to have you.
I love it so much. It's one of my favorite tour stops. The altitude is tough to sing in, but
if you live here, you get.
But if you live here, you get used to it. Hopefully.
What have you been here with before?
I was here with Les Mis, and then I did a production at the Arvada Center of Pippin.
Wow, I love that show.
Yeah, it's a great show.
That was one of the first shows I ever saw. I shouldn't say that on camera because that sort of tells my age. What was one of the first shows, Broadway musicals, you've ever seen?
I think the first Broadway musical I saw was 42nd Street, which is interesting
The
because...
Gower Champion?
Yes, which is interesting because I can't do any of that. Like, you know, I knew I wanted to be on stage when I saw something like that, but I obviously didn't take the tap dancing to heart because you don't want to see me tap dance.
Well, this show obviously draws lots of young people to it as well. So for them, this is their first exposure to the musical theater, and it can be that kind of inspiration. How does that feel?
It really is cool. We've had a lot of instances where people will come up, like at the stage door afterwards, and, you know, with their mom or their dad, and they'll say, you know, this is their first, you know, foray into the theater, and they're hooked. You know, we think we have a lifetime fan, and that's, you know, it's such a wonderful art form, and that's what you need to sustain the art form is the next generation. So
audience or performers.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it is a very fun show, and your part isn't exactly just a leading man, or is it a character part? It's kind of an amalgamation. That must make it a little bit more fun to play.
Absolutely. It's totally a hybrid of those two things.
I'm glad you agree with me. Wouldn't I look stupid if you didn't?
Oh, no, no. I've said it many times. It is, and that is why I love it, because a lot of my career has been playing sort of leading men, and then I've done more recently some character parts like Freddie and Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, and now this is sort of, you know, the combination of both. I mean, you get to, you know, you get the pretty song, and you get the funny jokes, and, you know, I don't think I'm giving anything away that you get the girl in the
But I think it's the first time you get to be proposed to, though, isn't it?
Yes, it is the first time I have been proposed to in a show. That's or any show, or out of a show.
Or out of a show. Now, you've been with the show for quite some time. What is that like to sustain that kind of enthusiasm and freshness every night, 8 shows a week for you?
It's a challenge. You have to, well, first of all, it's your job to do that, and you're not going to feel, great every night, but there may be that person in the theater that it is their first show that they're seeing you that night, and I think, you have a responsibility to do your best to give them what the person, saw last night. I mean, you with the exception of trying new things to keep the show fresh. Little bits of things or tone or approaching a scene a different way that somebody in the audience wouldn't be able to tell the difference probably, but you as the actor have given yourself another challenge that makes it fresh, on stage. And, certainly, I mean, it's human nature. It's you should try to. I had a great director tell me one time that as far as audiences go, that you should try to, when you're on stage and you hear a laugh, your first instinct should be, what was that noise?
Oh.
Well, I'm talking here, I'm playing a scene, and what was that? But that's and easier said than done, because I'm saying that because I'm going to say that also a wonderful audience, helps. Last night was incredible.
They loved it, didn't they?
Oh my gosh, it really was a treat.
The audience, because it's a live relationship, they are almost like another character in the piece, because that's what gives it a little bit of life. So you can't really ignore them completely.
You can't ignore them completely, and that is, what makes live theater so wonderful.
Now, doing live theater 8 shows a week in Manhattan is very different than being on the road. Can you talk about that difference for you?
Sure. In Manhattan, I think it's actually easier to keep a show fresh on the road than it is in Manhattan, because in New York you have your everyday life. It's your job, and you have your home life, and then you go to the theater at night, and it's the same dressing room, the same theater, the same sound system, the same orchestra, the same dresser. And in these theaters, on our tour stops, each time we have different things thrown at us on opening night all the time that you have to get used to. So I think it keeps you on your toes.
Having so many opening nights, is that a little bit hard on your nervous system?
It can be. I think you get used to it after a while. You grow to expect things that hopefully people out here won't notice, but you will notice, different things, sound-wise, orchestrally, but you just roll with the punches, and you just sort of learn to deal with it.
I know this tour winds up in August. Is that correct? Do you have a sense of what you would like to do next?
I would love to be home for a while. That would be great, to do something.
Home New York?
To do something in town would be wonderful. But just to work with great people who are inspiring, and I people ask me about shows that I want to do, and a lot of times it's more about people or composers or directors or things like that you would love to work with, because I think you only get better when you work with.
Anyone on your list?
Oh boy, a lot. I love Jack O'Brien. I got to work with him just a little bit on Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, but I would love to do
Brilliant show, by the way.
It's a great show, and he is such an inspiring man. I guess, composer-wise, I don't mean to leave anyone out, but the first thing that comes to my mind, I love Adam Gettle. It's a long list of both. So.
And of course, we'd love to have you come back to Colorado at the Arvada Center or any of the other theater companies here.
I would love to, and I'd absolutely love to. I love it here.
Well, thank you for taking time to talk to me today. I know you're going to have a great run, even though you're only here for 2 weeks. I know everyone's going to want to come out and see you.
I hope so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Two canine stars of Legally Blonde the musical got their start after being adopted from an animal shelter. Chico plays Bruiser, and Chloe plays Rufus. And they wanted to make sure that we had a chance to meet some of their friends here in Colorado. So the Max